Do you have sibling issues? I know I do. You should pull for Necrass. Necrass, aka Ablana, aka Banana, aka Global Cartel Leader, is a Shapercaster. A Shapercaster shapes summons from killing enemies, be able to attack enemies blocked by their own summons regardless of range. Same range as a normal core caster. I hate this range. They're quite squishy in terms of stats, and her summons doesn't take up deployment slots. Not sure why they would. From face value, this seems like a wave clearing archetype, since you kinda want them to kill things to make their kit work. To fall into the loop of kill something, spawn something, kill something, spawn something. Granted, you can use them to kill enemies but are much tankier than wave enemies, it just takes much more time. But then again, and like I always say, the subclass does not matter if the kit is busted. I don't think I've said that before, but I'm saying it now. Her talent 1, whenever an enemy within her attack range dies, summon a Servant of Lament at its location up to 3. If no more servants can be summoned, upgrade one Servant of Lament instead by increasing its HP and attack by 100%, plus 40% defense and 1 more block count. They're upgraded from earliest to the latest to be summoned. These summons, their base stats are not too impressive, but aren't this guy bad either, and they hit like a max E0 plume, and tanks like an E1 level 50 Texas, which isn't too bad, since you can infinitely spawn them and can also obtain upgraded stats, which is also great. Also, the fact that she can summon 3 is a good amount. Not too much to bottleneck her upgrades, and not too little to sacrifice basically the whole point of her kit. Obviously, the main issue is that she does need enemies to die in her range, and her range is the same range as core casters. But good news is that she herself does not have to kill them. As long as enemies die in her range, from any source, she'll spawn a guy. Also, the fact that I think she should be used for anything but for boss killing, so this won't be too much of an issue. Another very nice fact is that the summons also do arts damage, and I hope we all know that 90% of wave enemies basically have 0 arts resist, making her summons do pretty much 100% of their damage. Talent 2 increases Necrass and her summons attack by 140% when attacking enemies with less than 50% HP. Not amazing, but not a terrible talent. Now obviously, based on what I said before, I think she should be used for anything but bosses, so wave clearing with this talent is obviously going to be much better. Granted, it is pretty much useless against enemies that die in 1 to 3 hits. But at that point, it doesn't matter. But for more tankier or elite enemies, this talent I would say can perform noticeably enough, but it's definitely not something you should go all in on. Yes, I learned to play poker a month ago. Skill 1. Passively, each time a servant is summoned or upgraded, deal 450% attack as arts damage to nearby enemies around the summoned or upgraded servant. Upon activating skill, immediately resummon all servants in her range. If there are no more servants on the field, summon one servant instead. This skill, I don't think it's a very good skill. I think it's used for clearing a bunch of wave enemies, and the amount ranges from 300 to the population of Poland. And it also relies so much on servants being summoned or upgraded. So for baby wave enemies, they'll practically scratch the servants and would take way too long to kill one. Granted, it is behind a very short cooldown, and every time she does use her skill, it does a big group exploding session, which can do some serious damage to teenage enemies, but really the only thing keeping the skill up is the quick skill cycle. Upon activating skill 2, immediately put up to 2 enemies within attack range to sleep and deal 160% attack as arts damage every single second, and deal 160% attack as arts damage every half a second. If any of the sleeping enemy targets die, summon 2 servants. Looking at this skill, we can already see it has some utility and damage, which is quite good already. Normal wave enemies don't stand a chance, and neither does elite enemies with 0 res. Granted, further on the line, this skill does fall off a bit, and it's less of a chance that she can kill anything above a wave enemy with this skill. Also, the fact that you cannot even use other units to help her kill the slept enemies. However, if she is able to summon 2 servants, then it is pretty big, and her 20-second cooldown isn't that long either. The only problematic issue in my opinion is that the enemies needs to be inside her range, and her range is pretty minute. Skill 3. Passive up to 1 Servant of Lament changes into a special form which can only upgrade through skill up to 6 times. Upon activating this skill, immediately deal 800% attack as arts damage to all enemies in a big range. Then sacrifice 1 servant to upgrade the special servant and recover 20% of its HP. If the servant is already leveled, heal 40% HP instead, and repeat this whole process 3 separate times. This is a big one, huh? Well, not really. It's pretty much just a big hit 3 separate times. One very crucial factor of this skill is the special servant. This thing, and I'm telling you, this thing hits hard, tanks hard, and blocks averagely hard, until you realize the max upgraded version is the reincarnation of Thanos. And you might also have noticed that this thing has a skill, and this skill is awesome. He gets skill. No enemies? No worries. He won't use it. Enemy spotted? Use the skill and drills all enemies in sight, unlike a certain someone. Each upgrade you give to the special servant goes up by 80% HP and attack, and 40% defense each time, at a cap of 6 times. And on the 3rd and 6th upgrade, it gains 1 block and 1 skill range. Now, you may be asking, well, if it's a summon after all, like Ling, one limitation was that it was hard to sustain without a bard or perfume. Well, if you were paying attention this whole time, you would have noticed that she can heal it with conditions of sacrificing a normal servant. Not only it heals the special servant, it heals in percentages instead of scaled numbers, which can also be doubled once the special servant is built up. Granted, it does mean that there needs to be enough wave enemies for her to kill inside of her range, but as long as you set her up in a very high traffic lane, you really should have no problems with this. She also hits 3 times with this skill on a very nice and breezy skill cooldown of 16 seconds. Okay, glazing aside, there are obviously a couple of caveats to this skill, one being that she needs to be fed a lot of enemies. Think about this. 1 kill to spawn, 2 kill to spawn another, use skill to sacrifice, and repeat this 5 more times. Almost 12 kills, or over 12 kills, I don't know. And obviously this really isn't an issue majority of time, but you will be able to notice the difficulty to this in some endgame activities. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's something that you have to kind of commit when loading the stages with her. And another issue that stems from this is the fact that it's hard to control whether you want the special servant to be spawned, because the enemies needs to die on a specific tile to spawn on that tile. Meaning that if Ebnana can't kill an enemy quick enough before it walks out of her range, you'll need another operator to support this. Or she could also kill something too quick and it spawns in a tile that's hardly inside of her range. It's fine to support if the enemy is too tanky, but the worst part is that if she kills too quickly and the thing is on the edge of her range, the special servant could block enemies from entering her range and basically dying outside of her range, which is not good for her kill at all. And one last thing that I want to mention about this is that it is 3 separate hits instead of a skill that's like a power up or something. This is good for big burst damage, but definitely not great for total damage, so you shouldn't use the skill for damage. This isn't a flaw, but it's something you should know depending on the situation. Her skill priority comes in 3, 2, and 1. Skill 3 because when I tell you that when you build this special servant up, it doesn't mess around, I mean when you build it up, it doesn't mess around. And for a majority of the stages that has a lot of trash mobs, it is so very easy to build up. Not only this, the cooldown is extremely short. It's just a very nice skill that you probably use 99.99% of the time, like other 90% of operators. Skill 2 next purely because I think it's more useful than skill 1 and does something differently than skill 3. The utility to stall is something that can be very valuable for niche situations. And skill 1 if the stage only spawns cockroaches. Can Ebnana banana her way into endgame activities? Yes and no. Yes, because I believe depending on the stage in IS and CC, she is a solid lane holder. She could need some support on this here and there, but it's not 100% a terrible choice. What do I mean by this? Well, let's look at CC for example. If, in a way, a map favors more of a lane holding role, and this lane has so much trash mobs and elite mobs coming, I can 100% see her do well as long as you give her enough support to help her ramp up. Yes, it's time and resources, but I think for this role specifically, I think she could do a very good job in. And yes, even if CC enemies are stat 6. However, it's different in IS. Even if IS enemies are not as beefy as CC enemies, it really varies on how the stage works. Most stages in IS are very generous with their stage layouts and whatnot, but there are 100% some stages that she's just not compatible in. Like for example, enemies that fly, enemies that you have to pick off one by one slowly, otherwise you die, enemies with 5 different lanes that you have to hold, and stages with so little enemies that it's hard for her to ramp up. But overall, I give her a score of 7.4951091357819 out of 10. But to keep things simple, I'll round it to 7.5. Should you pull for Eplana? Yes, if you have a Pixiv account. Yes, if you have a sister complex. And no, if you have a banana phobia. Will I be pulling her? Yes.
Calm down, Wordy. We're your friends. Shut up, Buzz. I'll kill you.
Sorry, pal, but can we make amends?
Shut up, Slink. I'm gonna kill you.
Why can't we just talk it out?
Not this time, Bo.
Woody, oh Woody, where have you been?
Too late, Andy. I'm killing you slow. Calm down, Wordy. We're your friends. Shut up, Buzz. I'll kill you.
Sorry, pal, but can we make amends?
Shut up, Slink. I'm gonna kill you.
Why can't we just talk it out?
Not this time, Bo.
Woody, oh Woody, where have you been?
Too late, Andy. I'm killing you slow.